I just want to encourage our audience to do what they can to be healthy and live happy and healthy lives. That's actually my personal purpose, is to inspire others to live a happy and healthy life.
Welcome to Upticks with Jake Falcon, founder and CEO of Falcon Wealth Advisors. In this podcast, we help high net worth individuals overcome financial complexities. We do this by enhancing financial literacy and discussing topics in a language free from industry jargon. Join us as we help explain exactly what having a solid financial plan means, as Jake draws from years of experience in helping hundreds of individuals get financially organized and focused on their goals. We hope you find Upticks educational, entertaining, and shareable. Now, on to the show.
Welcome back to Upticks with Jake and Cory. Cory, welcome back to the show.
Hello, Jake. Thank you for having me.
We got a lot of fun topics to talk about today, Cory. But before we dive in, do you have anything fun, interesting, new in your life that you want to share with our potential millions of viewers / listeners out there?
Yes, my wife, Cassie, and I and her sister, we went and saw Moulin Rouge, Jake, at the Kansas City Music Hall last weekend. And it was a great show. We were fortunate and saw that a couple of years ago in January of 2020 in New York, and right before the world blew up with COVID. And it travels now and was here for a couple of weeks. It was a great show.
Now, what show? Now, was Broadway better than the KC version?
It was. The production, the theater, all of that. But I would say what we saw here, I mean, it was top notch. It was great. They did a great job, and it's a fun show. So
you're probably too young to know this, but I think when I was in college, there was a movie. That Moulin Rouge, a movie came out, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's one of Cassie's favorite movies, which is part of the reason we went and saw it a few years ago, and why we saw it last weekend. Yeah, and I have a feeling that my daughter's going to like that movie too, because Cassie's going to have it on.
She probably is. I think I watched that with a girlfriend I had in college, but I don't remember much about it.
Probably. I doubt you watched it with the fraternity brothers. It was probably.
No, I didn't watch it in the fraternity. No,
it was great though. What's new with you?
You know, the client called me out for talking about golf. I got a lot of golf trips coming up. I'm going to Nebraska. I'm going to Arkansas. And I'm going to Rhode Island here, Cory. So I got a golf tour coming up, as in touring other cities to play golf. I'm excited about it, though, because while I certainly love playing golf in Kansas City, it'll be fun to see different parts of the country. I've never been to Arkansas, so that'll be cool.
Oh, beautiful.
I'm going to go play there. So I got that. Got some trips going on. Been very excited. Our practice continues to grow, and, the markets have been all over the place, which is job security for you and I, helping guide clients through that. Mm-hmm. And speaking of that, I actually wanted to talk about our signature planning process.
Yes.
For clients that maybe aren't or need a refresher. I'm sure clients are aware of it. And if you're watching or listening to this and you are a client and you know someone that could benefit from our services at Falcon Wealth Advisors, I want to explain the process that new clients go through with us. And so it all starts with step number 1, Cory. That's the initial meeting. We allocate 30 minutes for that meeting. We typically would like clients or potential clients to fill in an intake form prior to that meeting so that we know all of their financial information. We know all of the hard data, so that in that 30-minute meeting, we can really get to know the client and find out what's important to them. And, we ask questions like, why is money important to you? Or what are you looking for when you're looking to hire a financial advisor, right? Do you have any money rules? So we really want to get an understanding and help start to build a foundation of a financial plan. Then, as you know, Cory, we've got a group of 5 fantastic financial planners who will collaborate and build out a plan as far as step 2. And then we meet with the potential client again. On third step is an in-person or via Zoom meeting where we will present the financial plan and most importantly, our observations and how things that the client can do to potentially improve their situation. We'll also go over investment recommendations and show our track record, and then we'll confirm the cost. And at that point, it's up to the individual to make the decision if they want to engage with us and hire us. But these first 3 steps are complimentary. They are confidential, and it's just a consultation is what it is. If they want to move forward, we introduce them to our account managers who will open up accounts, transfer assets, get everything onboarded. And then step 5 is really where the value starts happening. That's when our team proactively reaches out to our clients. Depending on the client's situation, we'll meet anywhere from 2 to 4 times a year. Typically now, Cory, it's either with you or one of our financial planners or with me or one of our financial planners. So we like to alternate. That's what an ensemble team does. And then we also do tax planning for clients, which is very important. That's where we will review their 2023 tax return and look for opportunities to lower their 2024, 2025, and so on taxes. Again, we're not tax advisors. I want to be very clear here for compliance. We're not taking the place of your CPA, but we are looking to lower your lifetime tax bill. And that's it. That's our Falcon Wealth Advisors signature planning process. I stand behind it. I'm real excited to take people through it. And again, if any of our audience is interested or knows someone that can benefit, all they need to do is email Luke at Falcon Wealth Advisors. Let them know if they want to meet with you, Cory, or with me. It doesn't matter to us, right? We're business
Correct.
partners. We don't care. So again, whoever they want to meet with, and we'd love to take them through that process. Did I miss anything there?
You did a really good job summarizing that. The one point that I would add to that, though, Jake, is that you really highlighted the process, how we'll go through the financial plan that we build out. The one point I just want to make also is that we do obviously strongly believe in this and we stand behind it, like you said. It's why we want to take people through this process before we start investing money for them, so we know who they are and what's important to them. The other point I just wanted to make, though, Jake, is that we've taken many people through this process that maybe it hasn't made sense for them to come on board as a client. Maybe they haven't been at the point in their lives or one thing or another. Maybe we thought at this point you need to do A, B, and C and go focus on that. We're happy to take people through that and make sure that people are pointed in the right direction also. So I think, for someone that needs help with their retirement planning, that's why we are here. And whether or not somebody becomes a client is separate from that. But we really want to help educate people and get them pointed in the right direction.
Correct. Yes, that's excellent. That's a really good point, Cory. And again, I don't want people to feel ashamed or that they need to pre-qualify. No, we want to meet with people and we want to help them. That's really what we're here to do.
That's right.
That's good. Good. And thank you to the listener who sent email a question. And so, Cory, I know you're going to talk about the question today. So again, if you have any questions or topics that you would like myself and Cory to go over here live on Upticks, please feel free to email Luke at falconwealthadvisors.com, and Luke will make sure that we talk about your topic here on the show. So, Cory, here it is. The question is, or the thought is, good morning, Luke. We would like to hear Cory and Jake talk about the negative effects of the Reduction Act as it pertains to the cost of prescription drugs. It was rolled out as being good for consumers, but everything I read seems to indicate potentially higher costs for drugs and various other downsides. Cory, what are your thoughts?
All right. So to jump into this, first comment I want to make, Jake, is at this point, I do think the negatives or positives from this are perceived because we just don't know. I would start by stating that. And from doing a little bit of research online, there's plenty of information about why it's going to be positive, plenty of information about why it's going to be negative. And the information is coming from parties that have a vested interest in the reality of this. But to get down to it, the Inflation Reduction Act was signed in 2022. Historically, Medicare has paid for drugs at listed prices that are set by manufacturers. Somebody's 65, they have Medicare Part D. Medicare basically just was a price taker, and the manufacturer set it and they paid it. The two key reforms in the Inflation Reduction Act: one, the provision, Jake, that empowers the government or Medicare to negotiate prices with those manufacturers on some drugs, and two, the inflation rebate, which requires manufacturers to actually rebate or pay money back to Medicare if list prices increase above inflation.
Well,
those are the two big reforms.
Yeah. So,
yep, go ahead.
To me, that doesn't sound all that bad.
So let's talk about the first one.
Well, hold on.
The provision that empowers the government.
Hold on. To me, let's talk about the first one. So the first one says that Medicare can negotiate the prices with the drug makers. What's wrong with that? Where's the negative in that?
Can you really negotiate with the government? Can you negotiate with a bear in the woods? It's like you adapt to what.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
And that's my point. That's my perspective on it.
Yeah. Okay. What else do you have?
So that's one part of it. That's a big part of it. My concern at this point would be a shift of cost to private insurance, because if Medicare is capping what they're going to pay, is that going to just move more? Is that going to move more insurance cost to people on private plans that aren't on Medicare? The other piece around this, though, is the inflation rebate. If prices for drugs rise too fast above the inflation rate, Jake, and the manufacturers have to pay Medicare back, why wouldn't the manufacturers just list the drugs at higher prices to begin with? If they're worried about the prices climbing too fast and they have to rebate Medicare. And I think ultimately the question, Jake, that somebody highlighted, and going out and just reading more about what is expected to happen. It is all expectations at this point, right? We don't know how it's going to play out. But I think the bigger question around is basically price controls, right? If the government is going to say this is the maximum amount, that is a form of government mandated economic intervention, which some people are going to believe in and some people aren't. And in some situations it might work, and in some situations it might not. But I understand where the question's coming from. And I think that ultimately time will tell here. But you bring up a good point. Why is it bad? Because we do know that drug costs have been a major issue for decades. And this is really the first piece of legislation to actually touch that. But I would expect the drug manufacturers to say, no, this is bad. You shouldn't tell us how much we can charge. And I would expect the government to say, we don't want to pay you unlimited amounts for drugs for people on Medicare. So time will ultimately tell, but I would be cautious of jumping to conclusions right now.
Yeah, and this gets a little out there, Cory, but I want to say it, is
Go ahead.
that I completely understand that some medications are necessary for people to maintain a healthy lifestyle. And this show, I want to be clear, is not medical advice at all.
Yes,
right? Because I'm
correct.
nowhere near qualified to give medical advice. I just want to encourage our audience to do what they can to be healthy and live happy and healthy lives. That's actually my personal purpose, is to inspire others to live a happy and healthy life. And so I get it that some people need drugs and prescription drugs, and they can be very expensive. I just want to encourage people to do what they can to be active and healthy, to hopefully not have to be on as many drugs. Maybe there's a drug you're taking that if you changed your diet or your exercise, you wouldn't need to be on it. And again, this isn't to shame anybody or make anybody feel bad. I just want people to be happy and healthy. That's what I want. And I want to inspire people to do that. So again, I think I'm not really for the government really fiddling with things, but I think that maybe to protect our senior citizens, that the government does need to check some of these pharma companies because of what they're charging, and make sure that they're not grossly overcharging the government, because they're just hurting everybody when they're helping the drug company, but they're hurting the government, which hurts the citizens, right? So it's a tough one. It's a really good question.
I ultimately think, that is a great way to put it, Jake, because really two things are true at the same time. One is that the price of drugs have gotten out of control for certain drugs, for certain people. And two, we don't always expect the government to be the most effective negotiator, right? I mean, both of those things can be true at the same time. So I do think that the intent here is to protect consumers because of what's happened to prices over the last several decades. How it plays out, time will ultimately tell. My personal I wouldn't say expectation, Jake. How about a hypothesis? Is that all of the changes around this will have more of an impact at the state level for state budgets than it will for you and me and for people on Medicare, because of the way that it goes from state to state. I frankly think a lot of this legislation probably has more to do with federal versus state budgets and how the money moves back and forth between the two.
Right. Good. All right. Good. Perfect. Well, thank you for addressing it, and thank you for the question. Again, Upticks, our subscriber count continues to grow, so please like and share our content. Cory and I are recording Upticks to enhance financial literacy, and we're recording it so that hopefully hundreds, thousands, and millions of people can enhance their literacy, just like the viewers and listeners to our show. So with that, Cory, take us away here.
Play ball. All right. We'll move past Medicare, Jake. To go for the gold, these Olympians went into the red.
Yeah. So Cory, you've been watching the Olympics?
A little bit, not very much.
Wow. That's what Rachel and I are zeroed in. We're zeroed in every day.
Really?
Every night we're watching. I can't believe you're missing out on so much, Cory. There's so many stories and drama and close competitions. I really think you need to get in that Olympics. So you're missing out. But this was an interesting article that a quarter of Olympic athletes, Cory, make less than $15,000 a year. So this is my issue. These people, these poor athletes, are sacrificing their careers and income all to go compete on a stage that happens once every 4 years, and they're not making hardly any money. So my question to you, Cory, is the squeeze worth the juice? Are you going to sit there and play ping pong every day for 12 hours and make no money so that you can go get beat by China? Are you going to do that?
Interesting question.
Is the squeeze worth the juice?
If that was my purpose, absolutely. If that was more important to me than in a lot of ways, it makes me admire a lot of the Olympic athletes a lot more, that they're not doing it for fame or for money or for whatever it might be. And don't get
Yeah,
me wrong.
well, hold on. So
Yeah, go ahead.
let's be clear. The people that win
Yeah,
gold,
yeah,
they get fame,
you're
and
right.
many of them get fortune,
You're
right?
right.
But not all of them. Not all of them. Not a
You're
lot
right.
of them. Again, you go play ping pong, China beats you, you're done. No one's gonna care. No one's gonna care, Cory, that you spent 12 hours a day for 4 years. No, they don't care. You didn't make any
Right.
money doing it. So I don't know. Here's my issue. I like
Go ahead.
sports.
Yeah, yeah.
I have friends that were athletes, professional athletes, and I get all that. I have a hard time sometimes. Like, what are they really contributing to society? Like, how are they help? And maybe they're inspiring people to be active and healthy, which is great. But other than that, like, what are they really? Like, I hate to hear about an Olympic athlete that's washed up and depressed, afterwards. Because again, there's a lot of psychological. I mean, you got to think, if you're training very hard for this and then you don't win and you don't get fame or fortune, and then you don't have any transferable skills in the real world. Like, there's only so long you can play tennis, so there's only so long you can be a gymnast, so there's only so long you can swim fast in a pool. And so it's like, I don't know. I think it's somewhat sad. Again, I agree with you. I do admire the dedication, determination, discipline, all of that. That's awesome. You can't deny that. Cannot deny that. I don't want to take that away from anybody. I just worry that some of these people are sacrificing their livelihoods and the rest of their lives. But maybe it's like, hey, I got my shot. I'm in my 20s. I'm going to do it. Jake, I can go work forever. I can't always go high jump, right? I'm going to be able to high jump for 4 more years. So I'm going to try to be the best high jumper in the world. Maybe that's okay. Again, who am I to judge? I just saw, reading the article is very depressing. Not depressing, but it was just like, man, these athletes aren't making any money. They're going into debt to try to live out their dream. And I guess it's just like anything else, but I don't know. I thought it was interesting. And just, I want people to realize that that's what's so cool about the Olympics, is that it's very pure. And a lot of these people they're not NBA players making hundreds of millions of dollars, right? These guys a lot of these athletes are broke, right? And so, I don't know, pretty crazy.
I think, though, like anything in life, though, Jake, if you want the prize, the gold medal, you have to pay the price, period. Whether that's sacrifice,
And good for them.
time, money, energy. Exactly.
And maybe it is, maybe I'm changing my mind here. Maybe it is more noble that they're doing that. I just thought, I was like, man, these people they're making no money. They're living like in their cars or on people's couches, and they're supposed to train all day. And it's just like, man, isn't there something else you could be doing, like, with your life? But again, I'm not judging. I'm just saying, like, man, that's tough. That's tough. So, and good for
It would
them.
actually be really interesting to hear from people that won gold medals like 20 years ago and haven't competed much in whatever sport. Like,
No, I want to hear from the people that didn't win gold. How'd that go?
or yeah, I guess either way, yes, exactly. But decades after the Olympics,
Right.
when somebody has the perspective to look back. But again,
Right. Would they do it again? Yes, that's what I want to know. So if any of our audience is listening or watching this, if you know a former Olympian who did not win gold, I would love to interview them here live on Upticks. Right? I'd love to do that. So we want to give them some coverage, right? Maybe we can make them
I
famous.
like it.
So again, if you know someone that actually competed in an Olympic sport, did not win gold, I want to hear, how did it go? And if they could do it all again, would they do it? And I bet, this is my guess, I bet they would, though. I bet they would, after what you said. All right, let's move on, Cory.
Sometimes it can be hard to admit if we were wrong about something.
Right, good point. All right, here we go, Cory. Investors embrace bond funds before rates start to fall.
Yes, U.S. listed bond ETFs, exchange traded funds, have taken in nearly $150 billion through the end of July, Jake, at this point in the year. So $150 billion flowing into bond funds through the end of July in 2024. Many investors are buying, plain vanilla funds that are focused on total returns, highest rated debt, et cetera. But ultimately, this article talked about how investors and bond funds have been seen as a bright spot for the money management industry that has struggled to contend with the growth of passive investing. And I thought this was interesting, Jake, because we've talked about bonds versus bond funds, owning a bond versus owning shares of a fund that owns bonds. And I think that management fees have declined for active asset managers. So they've viewed bond funds as really a bright spot. But my perspective after reading this is that's great for the industry, but what about the investors? Was my first thought. And my next one was, what happens when the herd runs in the other direction? And what does that do to the share price?
Right. I agree with you. I still think bond funds, even though if and when rates drop, this is what they're getting at. Bond funds should go up in price, but like you said, you're still susceptible to buying and selling of the fund, which could influence the price. So I still think funds in general, Cory, are very risky for people because you are tying your investments into other people's behavior. And I think if you're going to invest money, you should only have to worry about your behavior, not somebody else's. So you're right. And the Wall Street misses this. They care about the industry more than the investor. And so
that's
big
it.
problem. Yeah, big problem.
That's how the whole article was written. And I was reading this as like, if part of that $150 billion that flowed into bond funds was mine, I don't know if I would feel better or worse after reading this about whether or not that was the right thing for me or whether it helps the asset management industry.
Right. So just remember that. Anytime, just remember that for our audience, anytime they're talking about funds or products or whatever, this is my opinion. You got to remember there's another side of that transaction. Somebody is trying to make money off of this packaged product. To us, it makes more sense to hire an advisor who's going to go direct for you. Yes, the advisor is going to make money, but they're not going to turn around and flip your money into a product. Because then, in my opinion, you're doubling up on your fees. And that's not necessary.
Really quick, perfect example to give, Jake, that illustrates this is Bitcoin. It's Bitcoin. 2017, 2018, the asset management industry, Wall Street CEOs, these people hated Bitcoin and talked about how it was awful and for criminals and this and that. But now that the SEC has approved Bitcoin ETFs, everybody on Wall Street seems to love Bitcoin. And that's a perfect example, though, of what the incentive is and the product.
Yes, I agree. It was such a joke. All these big banks and financial institutions, because Bitcoin wasn't profitable, going to make them money, they were totally anti.
Not anymore.
Now that they found a way to make money on it, they are totally for it. Yes. It's such garbage. It's so stupid to me. It's like, if you're going to have an opinion, but don't make the opinion on whether or not you can make money off of it or not. That is so shallow. So shallow.
Well, they've probably taken a book out of our politicians' playbook, which is flip-flop whenever you need to, right? But the point, though, is, again, that's just a perfect example of it, though, is Bitcoin and the Bitcoin ETFs now that, Wall Street is encouraging everybody to go and buy, right? Because of when 6 years ago, it was the worst thing ever. The incentive changed, and that's what happened. But it doesn't, whether or not somebody should own Bitcoin as part of their portfolio, Jake, shouldn't depend upon whether or not Wall Street loves or hates it.
Right. And let's be clear, for compliance, we're not recommending Bitcoin here at all. You're just using this as an example to
illustrate it,
of how you can see how Wall Street can change their rhetoric based on if Wall Street can make money on it, which has nothing to do with helping somebody. There's nothing to do with
irony in it all is that with market volatility, Jake, picking up, the crypto industry is calling for the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates. And I'm like, whoa. I thought Bitcoin was supposed to be exclusive of all of this. Like, whoever it was that created Bitcoin, I don't think in 2024 that person expected that everybody that owned crypto would be begging the Fed for interest rate cuts. It's just, the irony is thick there, I must admit.
It's crazy. All right,
Jake, let's move on. Should my retirement savings be pre-tax or post-tax?
There you go. You tried to botch the title. You got to read the titles.
I tried.
So this is not what you think it is. This article is talking about how much should you save of your gross salary or your net salary. So it's not Roth or whatever. This is
traditional.
If you make $100,000 a year and you want to save 10% of your salary, if your gross salary is $100,000, does that mean you're supposed to put in $10,000? Or let's say you net 70 after taxes and whatever, health insurance. Are you only supposed to put in 7,000? Because that would be 10% of your net.
Mm-hmm.
And believe it or not, Cory, a lot of people get confused here and do different things. And it could be a significant difference in your retirement savings if you're doing financial planning on your own and you're calculating it, or even with an advisor, and you're calculating your savings on your net pay versus your gross pay. So again, with us, we always, we like to say save early and save often. So if in doubt, calculate what you need to save on your gross pay. But more importantly, you should run a financial plan and see what impact that's going to have on your financial plan and your retirement to make that decision. So that's really what it was about. But I think it's also important to discuss the type of account. So do you put it in so if you decide, all right, I want to put 10%, and again, 10% might not be enough. You might need 20, you might need 5, whatever. But if you're going to put 10% of your money in retirement, now you need to decide, should it be pre-tax, should it be after tax, or should it be Roth? And all of those have different stipulations. So again, it's not only how much you save, but it's also important in what type of account and in what form do you save. And again, that's job security for our financial planning group, Cory. They can run those numbers for our clients and let them know this is exactly how much you should save, and this is exactly the type of account you should put in it. Now, what's crazy about this, Cory, is that it's a year-by-year conversation, though, because income changes, tax laws change, all kinds of variables come into play. And so you can't just set it and forget it and just say, all right, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, and not look at it again for 10 years or 5 years or 20 years, whatever. No, you actually should review it every year, because one year it might make sense for you to change, higher or lower your amount, change the type of account. It's all based on your tax situation and your income. So a lot goes on there. I thought it was a good article, though, but it's crazy. Not everybody knows if on a percentage if it's pre-tax or post-tax.
So that doesn't necessarily sound, though, Jake, like there's a right or wrong way to do it. It really boils down to what it is that you need to save in your plan. And that's going to be a percentage of your gross income and a different percentage of your net, presumably.
Right. Exactly. There's not a right or wrong way. Really,
how do you do this? How do you think about this for yourself?
I've been doing it on my gross. I think I read a book about it, and I do it. I like to do it on my gross because it's different too as a business owner, because my taxes can vary pretty dramatically. But I like doing it on gross. It's cleaner. It's easier for me to figure, right? And then I do it on the gross, and I don't worry about it. Because again, for me, I'd rather oversave than undersave, right? You don't want to undersave for retirement. So if I'm saving a little bit more than I need, I figure I can shore that up, and I can spend a little bit more with Rachel or whatever if I save too much. So.
Good.
How do you do it?
The same way. I have previously, though, for a period of time, Jake, I was saving money. Basically, my savings in my own financial plan was based upon the net income. And my thinking in doing that was tax rates are going to change. I'm not going to be able to control or change what that looks like. So I just want to control how much I'm saving after tax. The reality is that it's less money, right, than if I'm doing it on the gross. So the flip side to that is I was doing that for a period of time, but just recognized that it actually got a little bit more complicated calculating it all. Like you said, Jake, it's almost simpler because I know that ultimately saving the money is the most important thing.
Right.
And then we can optimize around that.
Right. Good. All right, Cory, we got time for one more. Here we go. Changes in retirement savings rules to know before year's end. Oh, I think I had this article in mind too. Let's hear what you got.
There's a lot that's included in here, but to just bring everybody up to speed here, Jake, with the Secure Act and the Secure Act 2.0 and legislative changes that have occurred in the last several years, this is highlighting some of the things that are different for this year for people to be mindful of and consider. One is that if you have a Roth 401k plan, there's no more required minimum distributions. There used to be, now there's not. So the Roth 401k is like a Roth IRA, and then you don't have to take money out each year. Another piece that's changed, Jake, is that the 401k catch-up contributions for high earners must go into Roth accounts. Again, this is all in your 401k at work. Certain spousal beneficiaries of IRAs get more potential tax-deferred growth. Again, a lot of this has to do with folks if they're working later in life. There's a reduced penalty now for RMDs. Beginning last year, actually, the RMD penalty was reduced from 50% to 25%. The list goes on and on, Jake, but I think that ultimately making these points here for anybody who's watching or listening to the show to understand is that these rules and the legislation change regularly, and they've changed a lot in the last several years. And everything that's highlighted in this is different this year versus last year that you may not know about otherwise. If you're not listening to Upticks, if you're not talking to us at Falcon Wealth Advisors, That's what we stay on top of. But the point here for anyone else who's watching and listening is to recognize that things change. So nothing should be a decision that's made once and set in stone, like you've talked about, Jake. This is a financial planning, retirement planning, investment management. It's a process, not an event. And this is just highlighting that a bit further, I think.
Yeah. I was in a discussion online about this, I think, and I was looking at it, and they were trying to figure out if they were making all the right moves, and ultimately came down to is like, you have to make the best decision with the information that you have today, knowing that you're really never going to know, or you will know if you made the right decision only when you look in the rearview mirror. But you can't make the perfect decision every day, every time, because the rules change, like you said. So again, you gotta keep informed, educate yourself, understand what the rules are today, make the best decision based on the information we have today, knowing that decision may be wrong. But you know what? If it's wrong, then we adjust and we move forward, because that's just, life is too ambiguous. The government gets in and changes rules and laws. Stuff happens. You may need to buy a new car unexpectedly. You may need to file a claim because your house, something happened to your house. So again, stuff happens. And that's right, Cory. That's why financial planning is an ongoing process. You can't just say, I want to make all the right moves. I want to do everything perfectly. It just doesn't work. Life isn't perfect. Planning isn't perfect. We try to make the best decisions based on today, knowing that we may get it wrong and that we're going to have to pivot and change. But that's why you meet with your advisor. And that's why you have your friends at Falcon Wealth Advisors. We've got 5 financial planners. This is literally, Cory, what we've hired and trained them to do, is to meet with our clients and go over these new legislative changes and see how they impact our clients' plans. And quick plug, if you want to educate yourself some more, I got a book out there called Retiring Right, Smart Steps for Exiting Corporate America.
Yes.
Of course, this book's not going to be able to cover every nuance out there, but what it is, it's a guide to get you thinking about some of the major decisions you've got to make as you approach retirement, just to get that conversation going. So that's good, Cory, and I'm glad you shared this article.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're going to wrap up. You got any closing remarks before we wrap up today's show?
I don't.
All right. Well, thank you again for
Hopefully
joining
we get
me.
an Olympian on here soon. Sorry, I had one. I want the Olympian on the show. We want to find the Olympian for the show.
That would be awesome. That'd be awesome. And so again, thank you again, Cory, for joining me. And thank you all for tuning in. We hope you have a great week.
Thank you for listening to Upticks. Click the subscribe button to be notified when new episodes become available. Also, be sure to visit our website, falconwealthadvisors.com, and click the Contact Us button if you'd like to meet with Jake and his team.